another edition of Ideas Exchange. Tonight, our conversation will center around governance and accountability. Not into detail, but this has been triggered by the performance tracker, which was launched just a few days ago. A lot of conversation has been on social media, of course, on the media platforms. And many people have shown interest in what is going on. In our part of the world, many people assume that when we vote for people to lead us, it is up to them to do what they want. That is the status quo that has informed the psyche of the average Ghanaian voter. And so in as much as many people are not satisfied or may be very happy about what is going on, you will see a lot of them sitting on the fence. For me, this has been part of the problem we face as a country, because we have one group of people who may not be privileged enough to be to get the facility to access information, and therefore, if there are people in academia, labor unions, civil society organizations, you have intellectuals, former appointees, retired civil servants or public servants, all speaking to issues, especially if it is not going well for a country. I believe that any government, whether yesterday or today or in future, will wake up to the call. But many times, these are left for only politicians. So at the end of the day, we waste so much resources and people continue to argue about what really are the outcomes of the vote patterns we have seen over the period. When Minister for Works and Housing or caretaker minister for the Information Ministry addressed the public at the launch of the performance tracker, he sounded very confident to the extent that he was even telling his own colleagues that they should not just limit themselves to social media platforms, let's say WhatsApp links or messages people will be dropping, but go back to the website, look at the details in there and speak to it. Just listen to how Kojo Ponkroma put it.
I also want to find out how about this ministry, and that's a work that as was mentioned earlier, from the head of civil service through the chief directors and the directors RSIM we have done. How about this particular ministry? What sort of work has gone on in this ministry from about 2017 till now, or 2020 till now, or even beyond now, as we continue to track our progress as a republic, ministry by ministry? And so you'll find that 28 ministries and then the Office of Government Machinery are accounted for. So you can query by ministry and find for yourself what exists there. And some want to see by region. 16 regions have also been accounted for, and you see the projects listed according to region. And beyond that, the 261 MMDAs also have their projects accounted for here. So DC will be checking to see how many projects you have executed in your areas against other DCs. And if you have more projects, you please send it through the validation process, the very rigorous validation process, and when it is validated, it will be updated on the tracker. Agenda 111 project, when you take the numbers and you add it to the previous health infrastructure that existed, by the time we are done, healthcare infrastructure would have gone up by 55.9%. That is the addition of half of the stock that existed already to Ghana's health infrastructure. And I think we can give ourselves as a country a big round of applause on this one. STEM education, 5 schools completed, 5 under construction. And
so Kojo Ponkroma went on, and this has been the narrative, because within the past few months, we've heard government speak to the fact that they have performed even better than any government in the Fourth Republic. So based on this challenge, I visited the website. I have a brief package of what I saw when I was just going through some of the data they had put in there. Just look at what I packaged briefly, and then I'll introduce my guest. So I've spent some time going through the website of the performance tracker. So what I basically will be doing within the next 4 to 5 minutes is to help you to appreciate what I found out. There are some items that give you an idea about what government wants to talk about. So you see education, you see health, you see digitalization, government flagship programs, road and transport, etc. So what I decided to do was to just go through and then identify some specific project areas and see what specifically has been done. For example, Agenda 111 is one of the areas government speaks about. Now, when you go to the website, you go to the details. So you see construction of district hospitals, regional hospitals or psychiatric hospitals, and construction of regional hospitals. Now, when you open for the details of whatever government is actually referring to, you would notice that government says it is 54.8% completed. So this is the state of one of the projects that you see here. So if you see this project here, government claims it is 77.3%, according to the data captured here on the performance tracker website. Now, the question that I want to be answered by government is, are they making reference to the physical structure? Because when we talk about health facilities, what we do is that we make reference to the structure, the equipment to be put in, the road infrastructure, all the other details that will be put together. If you go outside the Agenda 111 and you take them at random, let's say, for example, STEM projects. If you open STEM projects and then you move into the data, we are being told that this project is 100% completed. Now, if I'm an ordinary Ghanaian and I go to the performance tracker website, and this is what government is showing me, that it is 100% completed, and then I don't see anything that has been done on the compound to suggest that it is really ready for use, whether there is furniture inside, because this is a school project, all the details that needs to give a school the status to be recognized as such is not here. Another one I want to make reference to is what they put here, 80% complete, a project at Diaso, but there's no picture. So I don't know how much influence this will bring to bear on those who want to critique the sector, electricity, for example. The only thing you see here is a graph that tells you those who had access to power at a certain point in 2016, a fair idea of how the website looks like. I'm sure in the course of the conversation I will have with my guest, you will be seeing some of these pictures, more of what I've been able to put together. And then we'll be comparing this to what somebody else did some time ago. My guest is a chartered marketer, a PhD holder in journalism. He consults for corporate and political institutions on political marketing, corporate communications, social media deployment, and tourism marketing. He recently developed the Focus software, an innovative data-driven customer feedback system that tracks and evaluates service performance. He's Professor Kobe Mensah, Senior Lecturer, Political Marketing and Strategist at the University of Ghana. Say, thank you. Short notice, but I'm happy to meet you.
That's all right. I mean, it's our work.
Yes, I know it's our work. So. I know you have been speaking to this issue since last week, but by now you have now taken your time to really scrutinize the website. What are your impressions? Changed, or you have additional issues to speak to?
Well, Eric, thanks very much for that. It's not even now that I've actually scrutinized it. I mean, on the day that it was launched, I immediately went to the site to actually have a look at it. Now, I have a background that would actually give me the competency to actually evaluate, the website and to actually recommend whether it's fit for purpose. Clearly, as marketer, as a marketing, scholar, service delivery is one of our areas that we look at. And when we talk about service delivery, I mean, we'll talk about e-commerce as one of the, various ways or channels that businesses, including, organizations and governments actually deploy services. So it's a good idea to actually think that government would actually deploy that. And by the way, let me say that the idea of, putting a certain tracker, call it performance tracker, whatever you call it, is actually part of a broader principle in governance, which, from 2008 and which festered actually in 2011, that we call open governance system, where a lot of countries actually signed up to it. I remember when Obama came to the office, one of his goals was to open up the governance for people to be able to know what government is doing. Over the years, and I think by 2011, countries have actually signed up to that particular concept of open governance. And so, I remember those days we used to have policy fair, which I have actually written on as part of a research that I did, a book chapter that we published. Over the years, I think NDC again came up with what we call the Green Book, which was to show evidences of what has been done, which came under intense criticism of the then opposition party. And so,
then party in government.
Yeah, exactly.
No, the criticism was by then party in opposition, which is in government
exactly,
now, right?
Yeah. Then they, in 2020, came up with what they called delivery tracker, supposedly to give evidences of what they've done. And then, of course, performance tracker. Now, when you look at service quality, web service quality, one of my senior, professors, I always call him, Henson, actually did a work with some students, with some colleagues, and they looked at, web quality of banks in this country. One of the frameworks is that they look at the usefulness of the information on the website. They look at ease of use. So if you go to the website, is it easier navigating? And then they look at what we call dialogic loop, that the website actually gives opportunity to give a feedback. And they look at how it conserves, customers, i.e., you will be retained when you go there. You can spend time.
That you find it more attractive.
And
or the data there is enough to satisfy your taste.
Exactly. And then you would come back to it. So these are some of the frameworks for judging web quality. Now, when you look at this particular tracker and then you compare with that particular framework, you realize that it's nowhere close to what we call quality. Now, again, I went there to check. There's what we call logic model in web building. Those people who do IT, they can attest to it. And even one of my colleagues actually called me and said, he is actually a lecturer in that. And he says, I didn't know you were so deep into that. I said, well, I found some, kind of excitement doing these things. And there's a section that says filter, all right? So the themes that is there, so you select ministries, which are the themes. So Ministry of this, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, etc. So when you select, for argument's sake, Ministry of Education, the assumption is that then it should restrict you to Ministry of Education related project. That's what we call filter, all right? So when you select that, then the next category would be, let's assume that first cycle education, second cycle education, or whatever category they will give under education. So when you select that, then it restricts you to that particular category again and then again. So, but this is not a case. When you select Ministry of Education, whatever ministry you select, you would see the rest of the ministry again having been populated. So you will still have defense, etc. So you select Ministry of Education and you see afforestation, you see Agenda 1, you see, of course, it does not fall within what we call quality of a website. Now, that is one. So we're talking about the functionality and then the aestheticsness of the particular website. Again, when you go to the detail of the project, when the minister was speaking, he said, the lady, I think the information ministry lady,
the acting minister or the minister designate,
exactly, which Oponkoma later also came to say, they emphasized the idea of evidence. And by evidence, they meant that there had been photos, uploaded, validated and uploaded of the project. So not only the text document, the text information to say 70% completed or 100% completed. They say that there are photos to show progress of work. And they had gone on to show videos. They said they have uploaded videos. So you have a text which talks about percentage of completion or, whatever. And then you have a picture that actually, and there are videos. Of course, a video add more to photos because photos is still video much more, you could see the perhaps dimensions. And then they said they have added geolocation. And that's crucial, geolocation. Geolocation means that if you take the location icon, which I saw when you were doing that, there was this, some kind of a pinpointed red stuff. So when you click on the geolocation, it takes you to the location of the project. That would be sufficient to tell you evidences
of what has been
project.
done.
Exactly. None of them works. None of them is there. I mean, quite a lot of the projects, you would see a percentage of completion, 70%, 100%. But that's somebody writing it to say 100% or 70%. All right. Even if there were a picture, you would say there's an additional information. But even if there are pictures, the picture still doesn't give you evidence. Because you remember the popular criticisms of NDC photo book. You know, so if it was photos, you criticize somebody that photos aren't evidence of what is existing.
Or enough
evidence.
What
exactly.
is existing.
Exactly. That was your criticism. So I suspect you would go beyond that. And that's why you say geolocation. Why is it that when you click on the geolocation, it doesn't work? And why is it that there are no photos?
This is a government that is scoring itself. It's government's own scorecard. Looking at what it has done from 2017 to now, and obviously this has been packaged to boost their campaign towards 2024. Of course. So why will anybody rush to do this if it falls below standard?
You know, of course, I mean, as you said, it's for propaganda purposes. You know, and the reason I'm saying it's for propaganda, I have to substantiate my point so that people would not say they're just saying it in vacuum. Let's give, for example, that it falls under the principle of open government with good intention for us to know, and as they say, for the development partners to know how much money they've given and how much work they've done, for us to be able to judge how much money you've given, how much. Okay, so you did in 2020 a delivery tracker, ostensibly to tell people that you're working. Okay, we had issues with the delivery tracker. You pulled it down. But once you have the idea, it means that you're pulling it down to refine it and then bring it back. You never did. And of course, it was towards election. You wait until 2024, another point of us going into election, and you bring another track with the same issues or the problems that we had with the previous tracker. If you had a good intention of saying that this is open government, you would say that you would have continued with the old one and refined it. And throughout the period of your government in the 2020-2024, you would be showing us evidences of what you're doing continuously till 2024. You didn't do that.
Now, so is government shooting itself in the foot? Especially because I have some pictures I put together. I'm sure the producers named it Cutaway or so. You can show them on the screen. I took screenshots of some, and please take away yes, of course, so that we can see it better. And then you can pause it a little so that we can actually appreciate the pictures. Now, if you see what is there, you will see the percentage government has put there as you go to the website now. Now, the percentage complete is there, and that is the state of the project. Now, can we move to the next slide? If we move to the next slide, you would notice that the percentage complete is there. For example, this one, you see 100%, isn't it? And then look at is it 60%? Now, look at the status of the project. I'm wondering whether anybody who is a Ghanaian who knows a government has collected taxes or borrowed money for initiatives. And this is one of the Agenda 111 projects. So if this project is 60%, it raises question. And I don't know whether it is defeating its own agenda or it is exposing government. Now, let's move on to another one, a couple of them, so you can allow it to roll so that while the conversation goes on, I believe those monitoring our program as we speak can appreciate it. Now, what does this say?
I mean, it does not talk about evidence as they claim. I suppose those who are very much into, you know, architecture, structural engineering, etc., they will be able to tell whether the 72, the 26, or whatever 65% complete actually matches with the evidence, with the so-called evidences that they're showing.
See, you will speak to it. And sorry to barge in. For example, when a government is executing a health project, at what stage should government say the project is complete?
Yeah.
I saw the University of Ghana Medical Center. You are a lecturer there. At a point, the physical structure was there. It got to another phase where the needed equipment were installed.
Absolutely.
Then government can say this project is near completion or the phase 1 is completed.
Agreed.
So based on this...
Agreed, but that will be our lay person's view.
Right.
There will be people who do structures, who do, who are able to, material people, who are able to tell when we talk about completion of project percentages, who could actually analyze and say, okay, you can't say 60%.
What do you, in your estimation,
but my point is that,
what is a hospital project?
So my point is that from our perspective, we would actually look at it and ask ourselves, is that evidential enough by using some construct? And as I said, if I see the picture located at a particular place where I am not resident of that particular place, I cannot identify that particular place. Let's say I live in Takrady. This project is in Accra. It would take the person who is in Greater Accra, who is in that particular area, to be able to physically go there to check whether indeed it exists, or the photos that you're showing us is not photos of a different location, all right? And so it defeats government's claim that the website itself could tell you of evidences of the things that they have done. It defeats that, because the geolocation that you mentioned, that would take you to the site for you to say that yes, indeed, this particular photo and then the videos that you see, when you click on it, it takes you to the location. In terms of the digital mapping, it does not do that. So I can confidently say that it fails, according to their own, markings. As to the percentage complete and whether seeing a photo of a roofed, building, could actually certify a certain percent, I can't tell because I'm not an expert within this framework. I think people who actually do structural engineering, who do materials, will be able to actually speak to that. But the point is clear. The evidences that they show is not enough per their own, grades, per their own markets, per their own frameworks. Is not enough to satisfy what they claim as evidence.
Now, this whole conversation brings to question what really is governance or accountability. We are not looking at this in detail as maybe a PhD student or a graduate student would be looking at, but for the ordinary person, I have gone into an election. We all went to vote. A certain candidate won. That candidate has the mandate to govern this country. He has access to all the taxes we pay, or may even introduce new ones. He has the capacity to borrow as much as he or she can as president or a government to deliver. Now, when we talk about this definition under the umbrella, governance, accountability, is this what we should be seeing?
Well, the intention of establishing a certain system to open up what you're doing is right. And as I said, the accountability or the open governance system takes many forms. And, when internet wasn't there, I'm sure 2015 when NDC launched its Green Book, internet wasn't pervasive. I mean, the idea of internet really caught up with us. I'm sure 2012 it was only Kwesindum who used the internet for campaigning. Over the years, 2020, I think it was massively used then. So it is not for any reason why in 2015, NDC actually used what we call the paper, as in the book, to demonstrate, because we were not so much in tune with internet. Going forward, we are now fully in tune. So if somebody has to create a certain website and to say that I want to show what I'm doing, it is a good idea. But whether it is for that particular purpose, that's what we're questioning. So the issue is that, yes, accountability, we need it. But we need you to be transparent. And we need you to be forthright. We need you to be very credible. We need you to be open with us, not actually propaganda purposes.
So when you talk about transparency, how do you situate your own understanding of that word, transparency, for the purpose of this conversation? Let me try to elaborate on how I want to frame the question. If you go in there are district projects, there are regional projects, and there are national projects. And so many people have been arguing that why would you capture, let's say, a toilet facility built for a secondary school or a primary school to be part of what people really want to see as real major projects that Ghanaians want to see as something you can pat your back with, and not the ordinary things that must be done at those levels.
Exactly. I think that it's actually their own problems. I mean, their own claims that is actually biting back. You know, you would actually say that, and I think Muhammad actually pointed out quite a lot of things that government does, you know, which are actually divided. Remember, we have a decentralized government. So there are projects that you would expect that a central government would not be so much involved in, will be left to a local government. Right? And with the local government, you have district level. And then, of course, you have this, those ones they call assemblymen, etc. All right. So you have categories of projects. So if you had claimed of a certain superior performance that Ghanaians must look up to, we do not expect you to be demonstrating projects that are at assembly level, for example. We expect you to be showing grand projects, all right? And so their own claims is what is actually, you know, hitting them back. If you had not made that grand, you know, kind of promises and say, we do not have to measure you according to Mohammed's performance. We have to be looking at Malaysia, Singapore level. Then I don't expect a toilet in a performance tracker. I don't expect a jersey donations in a performance tracker. I don't expect a football field in a performance tracker. I expect grand project, as you said, because the very project that we're talking about, these integrated projects, are for a different level of governance. You know, what do you call local government be doing that. But because they had actually claimed a certain level of superiority, it makes our expectation grand. And so when we see a central government advertising such a project, then we are surprised. And then again, you want to claim a certain level of superiority, all right? And so when you are advertising project, I don't expect that you would put a certain MP's project as part of yours. Unless, of course, you were claiming that these are governments of Ghana. And as a result, even if it was started by Mahama, all right, because it's a government of Ghana funds, you know, you could actually put it there. But then you would label it and to say, this project, perhaps this percentage of a project was done by the previous administration, and then I came to continue. That's when you sound very reconciliatory, all right, very conciliatory, and you're giving credit to people who came before you and did it, just like what President Atta Mills was doing by opening projects and then inviting Kufuor where he had a hand in them, right? But you had actually claimed and you had actually sounded completely different tone of a certain superior performance other than, you know, what your predecessors actually did. And then you come in and you're showing us things that perhaps does not actually fit your own language. So I think that very much they're being bitten by the kind of things that the kind of expectations that they made us have. And that's why they haven't. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had any problem to think that you're advertising a project that perhaps Muhammad did, but it's part of government, Ghana government in a project. And now, then you are labeling it.
Open governance, as you put it, referencing what Obama suggested or pushed the world community to buy into is, for me, can be likened to transparency.
Absolutely.
This is a government that has been accused of borrowing so much. So from 124 billion cedis, let's say as of December 2016, and when I did my last checks, I noticed that the debt levels had reached 630 as of December 2023. Now, could it be that government deliberately decided to populate the performance tracker with all these to showcase so much done or so much it has had in its hands, or maybe they have their own standards that we are not seeing from the perspective they find it?
Of course, I mean, it would be difficult to actually gauge or to talk about the intentions of government and what they're trying to achieve, you know, with what they've done. But I suppose we can use, you know, what we call the signaling theory to actually, you know, kind of gauge what they want to do and to analyze it. And that's the point I made earlier, that if you look at the timing of, what they're doing, it does nowhere near, equate to open governance. Why? Because you already initiated that in 2020. You pulled it, back, and then you are reintroducing it in 2024. The same timing towards elections. So that means that it falls flat, on what we call the open governance principle. It is purely propaganda, because if it wasn't, you would have actually been showing us right from the 2020 progress of work, and we had the time to evaluate and to even acquaint ourselves with the website. All right. Currently, we're discussing it because it wasn't in existence. If it had been continued from 2020, this wouldn't have been a topic for us to discuss, because you have bettered it, you have defined it, and things had been genuinely uploaded, and then we would have had a sense of how you're actually using our money. But clearly, you didn't do that. You've waited until election time. We are accusing you of having borrowed so much money, and you are in haste to demonstrate that you have done something just to hoodwink Ghanaians to vote for you. It's not going to happen.
Now, it depends on the average Ghanaian, obviously, because now it is information that is available. The moment government pulls it down would mean that government has defeated its own self. So it is likely to be there, and they will update it. But which is best for our part of the world? You have government. Government has the liberty to do whatever it thinks is better for, let's say, the people or whichever region or district they may find themselves. Must there be a system that we will accept must be in place, which will actually monitor and give us up-to-date information rather than wait till this time? Because Parliament is an institution. They approve the taxes, they approve the loans, they have a system of monitoring government expenditure. So which is better in terms of tracking the performance of government, i.e. projects and specifics?
No, that's the point I keep saying, that this project is supposed to be a national project as opposed to a partisan project. It's supposed to be in the hands of the technocrats who, i.e. Whatever ministry responsible for that, they're supposed to actually have this project and then say that, yes, we're going to continuously update, whether it's Nanado in power or Mahama in power. We're going to have a certain, system where we can equally, track what government is doing. I'm a researcher. I always looking for information from government. I do not have to go to a ministry. I do not have to go to a certain agency to say that I need this information for them to give me physically. I can sit in my office, go to a certain website, and be able to get that information. So it's a good news for me. I mean, the development agencies, if they want to check, how far government is on there, it's a good news for them. They can access this. But because they do not have that particular good intention, the implementation is fraught with quite a lot of challenges, because they just want to hoodwink us, right? And that's why they're doing this. If it should be refined, all right, and going forward, they are genuine with us and make sure that they correct the kind of thing that they say they're going to correct, and they upload not only their projects that they've done, but previous projects that are still in the works, and then updating the people, all these things. Well and good, but do not just advertise yours just because you want us to vote for you. I think that every Ghanaian project is by a Ghanaian taxpayer. We have the right to know any of them, regardless of which government is doing it. It would be a good idea to even categorize them. So if you go and says maybe before regime up onto this, these projects are in the pipeline, we can see them. All right, and maybe the continuation of whoever came to continue, how much percentage we can see them. Maybe Atamils of Blessed Memories project, Mohammed's project, and then Akufo. It would be fantastic to see, the regimes and how much they've contributed. And that's why I think it must be a national agenda as opposed to a partisan, a reasoning behind these things.
Oh, that sounds good, but whether we like it or not, the 2024 elections will be comparing scorecards. What NDC may have claimed in their green book or what government is claiming to have achieved under the performance tracker. But there are embedded issues, corruption, value for money, shoddy jobs, etc. And the chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, spoke on this network yesterday. And he also raised a very serious issue, which is worthy of looking at, or for any Ghanaian, wherever you are, and a specific project has been identified in the tracker, may want to follow up and see. The fact that there are even times when technocrats connive with politicians and they create the impression that a certain project has been executed when indeed it has not happened. So it will look like such databases give room for anybody interested in tracking what our resources are being used for, the evidence that the person wants to follow up will be there. I want us to listen to Johnson Asiedu Nketia, which will inform how we respond to the question I've put to you.
A buying person tracker about the near ma or ya. Okay, a good transparency initiative. So long as say no credit bebum. So ya wajin say majuma maye mende tuja obia ibiwo ukro mu bia no cross check na mi hunu feedback say no kwese ya na yenye because that bia politicians no nya wo mu na kowuram hokoye akwai no public servants na ye adwuma no na wo mu ne contractors kwat mi ka na adwuma ye nwie ne asan se ye wie ne atuaka na nipa no kom wo be ko fam ho na adwuma no ye nwie bro enunti no say I have fought some of such battles before. Brebia, I think we were in power at that time. President Rollins Breswa, some of these administrations. Ya sending krata say ye school dime be 100%. Yet pia honka. I'm a contractor. Na me ko kan say saade we e wo me constituency ye nwie ye.
Said it.
Enti mumma ye ntua ne ka. Me ne bampanin for at that point at regional level ni wo munya ntokwa kese pa. If you like, go and check. The contractor be a man who didn't crata e baha. Ati say a year final certificate say we man o nwie. Ati tuka kokohe. Inspecting. That time, yama Ministry of Finance, the nipa buy project no site. Be who say, I know you're more so.
Why any finance certificate or could you
and I'm a catcher?
Company.
And now, Broco Sardian. Theatre da beer. Now, and shed that yet say. Politician be and I said that person did.
So that is Johnson Asiedu Nketia, the national chairman of the NDC. My interest is in the picture slides that I showed, which will be shown while you answer this question. I mentioned corruption, deception, and where times people connive and misappropriate the taxpayers' money under the guise of what we have seen.
But that's the point I think I made, and that's the point I was talking about, the quality dimensions of these things, the delivery. And I mentioned what we call the dialogic loop, right? As part of the measures, for doing things like that. If you want people to be interested, and you want a continuous improvement, the dialogic loop is what he was mentioning. That if you have a way of getting people to feed into the system, we'll call it co-creation.
So if you look at this, for example, look at the percentage complete. Some of these 50%. Are the Agenda 111. There is one particular one where you saw 100%. And I am wondering that, what does it mean?
Yeah,
but
so,
you speak to the issue.
So exactly. So what I said in Kete was saying is what I was talking about. If you have a dialogic loop, which is basically feedback, all right. So you have a feedback there, and then people who live in the vicinity are able to say this project, as he was saying, this project is not 100% complete. And in that dialogic loop, they can take photos of the site, all right? They can upload. These days, the technology is there. You can actually go onto the site, take photo, upload, and say, this is evidence of what is there. So, but of course, Kojo Ponkrumah said that.
So look at this, for example.
And don't forget, Kojo Ponkrumah said that they have been vetted, which means that he's claiming there had been a mechanism built in to actually confirm that if they
whatever is uploaded.
So if they put 100%, it is 100% because they vetted it. If they put 70%, it's 70% because they vetted it. That's what he says. But what I said in Ketia said was that perhaps there could be collusion to say this project is 70% complete and it's not. So put in a dialogic loop, put in a feedback mechanism so that the people in that local area could actually verify and then give you information and say, Mr. Minister, this project that you are saying 70%, it is not, and this is the evidence.
If I'm an average Ghanaian, should I take this performance tracker serious?
No, it depends on how you frame it. Serious intention, the intention behind.
I am making reference to the data assets that I go to see on the website.
The data, we may not be able to, or we cannot rubbish everything because there are some that are genuine, but we're saying that extensively, if you take the entire project, the functionality of it, the aestheticness of it, as I mentioned to you, it is far from what they claim, the big English that they used to claim. Certainly, it is not up to that. Is the intention right? Absolutely. I would, any day, encourage a government to start something like that or to get something like that for us to be able to verify what they're doing. Is the information there, genuine, credible? Of course, quite a lot of them are not, because you are saying 100%, but we can verify it. So it comes back to your earlier criticisms of someone's work, that they were just putting pictures together.
Okay, so what we would do is that the former Techiman MCE has sent us a soft copy of what he did in his district alone, which is for him more explanatory, because you will see before and after together so that you can look at the data and compare. So we'll be taking a short break. When we come back, what we will do when we come back is to help you appreciate what is actually feeding into the debate as we continue to discuss the performance tracker.
Upon your arrival, you are introduced to your butler, who plans your itinerary. So many activities, all in the same premises. Visit the gym or the stables, they have it all. At my break, I'm aiming to practice my putting. They used only electric vehicles here. This creates a serene environment. I'm told it's over 1,000 acres. My cabin here sits on 2 acres with a large terrace space overlooking my private swimming pool. Now this is royalty. They have their own farms, thousands of fruit trees. I can also have my lunch here at the waterfall. Quite a beautiful place like this.
Welcome back. This is Ideas Exchange on TVXYZ. We are trying to critique the performance tracker, and then we are situating this under governance and accountability, because it is your taxpayers' money that government spends for anything government claims to be an achievement. Now, while we were going through the break, I was trying to go through this book, which has become part of the conversation. And this is the popular green book that many Ghanaians looked up to. Now, if you look at this green book, many of the projects here are national projects. National projects, i.e., major infrastructure projects, be it roads or the port expansion, hospital, water systems, education, etc. Unlike the performance tracker, which is decentralizing it or breaking it down to the level. I spoke to the issue about Techiman, former MC, sending me some data. Now, my producers will try to run through what he shared with me, because for him, what government has done is not enough to convince the average person what really the impact is. But what you see on the screen, what he sent me when I went through, comes with what will look like a before project and after. So I will just ask my producer just to scroll through so that people can quickly look at how it used to be and what it is now. So you see before and now at the time, 2016, and many of them come as such. So you see how the project was and how it is now. So you see this project that is before, and then you see now. So just keep scrolling so that people can apparently appreciate how the project is. So you see Akrufi, you saw the before then, you've seen now, you see Phone Chrome GHS, which is now. I'm sure when they open the next page, the rest will come. I don't know how it's been packaged. Ameyao, primary, I don't know. So you see the before. You just keep watching as we have the conversation. Will this have been enough for people to look at the impact? Because the performance tracker, if you look at the database, it also comes with some footnotes about the impact and beneficiaries of specific projects.
Now, when we talk about impact, we don't mean photos. So it cannot pass as impact, although you can see evidence.
No, so if you see can you pause it? Look at the structure there. If you see the structure there on the screen,
now, so the
you speak to it.
Yeah.
The structure there on the screen now is a facility which used to house students, basic school students. Now, if it is raining or reptiles are supposed to be around that area, you will see how it is.
I agree.
For the average person in that community, the impact is the new facility there.
Now,
I don't know your definition of impact, but you can speak
I get
to
the point that you're making. I mean,
right.
I'm an academic, so I have to be sure what I say. When we talk about impact, it is not about seeing something there to talk about impact. You can talk about the outcome of it, the old and the new, fantastic. But in terms of impact, you have to go into a different realm of assessment before you can speak to that. And so let me make that particular point clear. And then, of course, it wouldn't also pass as evidence because someone's perspective, you've taken a photo and then you put it there. And that's why I'm saying that the geolocation that they mentioned is what, if we want to go into the deep sense of, evidence, because I don't know whether you know what we call Google Earth.
No, I know.
Exactly.
So now, for those who are watching the program, what you are seeing on the screen is not the performance tracker as we speak. It is the Techiman South in 2016 when they were going into the election, what that district alone tried to put across as the evidence of what they have been able to do by way of infrastructure to improve the lives of the people.
Absolutely.
At a point, you can come back to the studio, but let's continue the conversation.
So for those of us who are here in Accra, seeing this alone does not give us evidence. Someone has to go to the location to confirm real time that indeed the project is there, because still is the picture that we're seeing. Now, if you go ahead to put an interactive device, which is the geolocation, and then you click on it, and it takes you real time to the place using Google Earth kind of technology, and then seeing the picture. Because as I sit here, if I go to Google Earth and show you my hometown, my village, Nitakrade, all right, it will take you zooming straight to the place so you can see evidentially. So if you want to satisfy the evidence, then you are saying that, do you have an interactive, mechanism? When we click on it, it takes you straight, as we're speaking, to that location, and then you can see the structure. Then you have satisfied evidence, all right? But showing a still picture or showing a video that somebody has captured does not itself satisfy evidence unless, of course, someone physically had been there and has transmitted. So let's say a person goes to that location and take a video call, and then we can see the structure. We have satisfied evidence. If you can click on a certain button and physically it takes you there and you can see you have satisfied evidence. But if you take photo and then you capture a video that you capture, it's historic, and then we are saying it, we cannot satisfy that the project actually exists. So this is the point I'm making, and that's why I'm saying that the claims made by the ministers that this tracker actually is the evidences of what, it cannot be taken on that face value until some kind of mechanism, some kind of measures had actually been satisfied.
What do you expect should be done differently to improve on the impression anybody gets when the person visits the website of the performance tracker?
I think that they have to go back to the drawing board to actually put in the mechanisms for satisfying evidence, all right, and which they mentioned earlier. We don't want those pictures that they have uploaded because it could be deceptive. We don't want the videos that they have actually taken and come and uploaded because it could be deceptive. They should put that particular geolocation things there. So when you say that this project is so and so at this location, we click on it. It takes us to, because the technology exists, it takes us there and we can see the coordinates and we can actually satisfy ourselves that indeed this project, when you click on it, it takes you to Kumasi, a certain suburb, and this project actually exists there. Then you are satisfying yourself with what we call evidence. But what you have done, it doesn't actually satisfy the requirements.
There is this issue about missing projects. Mm-hmm. I've heard people trying to play mischief with the National Cathedral, for example, that a lot of the taxpayers' money has gone in there. Mm-hmm. There are people who are also speaking to other things government may have done, which may have also caused us some losses in terms of money we've lost. And so going into an election, any government any government or somebody in opposition would not just be looking at a performance tracker to score government. It will go beyond that. For the average person who may not be too much convinced about who to look up to, what are some of the elements that should inform how they weigh issues?
Now, of course, I mean, I'm not sure that people are going to vote based on performance tracker, because at the end of the day, your issues go beyond a performance tracker. You have your livelihood issues, you have your educational issues, you have your health issues, specifically to you and your family, all right? So, yes, in as much as it's good for you to say, I've done X and Y, someone is asking whether those things that you've done actually impact their own life directly. And that's where we say, for a certain name, that kind of common slang that we talk about. So I think that one, things that are going to actually influence people's decisions. One is going to be that people trust that you say what you will do what you say, because we had quite a number of years that politicians haven't been truthful to us. They've lied to us. They've actually done so many things that people are unhappy. So people are going to compare who says and does. All right, that's one. Obviously, people are going to compare whether their situation, livelihood, those days and now are actually improved or haven't improved. They're going to actually look at that. People are going to look at whether, when it comes to education of their young people, of their kids, etc., have improved or they're worse off. People are going to look at all these kinds of issues. So a broad base of issues that people look at, including even when it comes to the road networks, all right, in the particular area, when it comes to their own village. And I keep saying that the voting patterns of people is such that it is multivariate, because you are a dad, you work, you come from a certain village, and you live in a certain place. Now, usually you're conflicted as to which of these markers would lead you or would be predominant in your decision to vote. And so if you have two candidates, one saying that I'm going to fix your home region roads, and the other talking about I'm going to increase your wages, at that point you are conflicted, you have dilemma. Do you vote for the one who is saying is going to fix your home region roles, or you're going to vote for the one who says, I'm going to increase your wages. So the politician will say so many things, hoping that they can touch all the touch points of your voting decisions, and in the end, win you over. So what people are going to look at are varied. I don't think it will be performance track or be based on who says that I have done what. It's a myriad of issues. At the end of the day, who says what and will do it would actually come top.
As a political marketer, what do you see in the coming days as the political campaign activities start? For example, today, as we speak, I know the president has officially commissioned the relocated Ameri plant. And just today, as he finished and left, there was a demonstration. I think we have the videos. There was a demonstration in Kumasi against Dumso. And so this is Kumasi. It happened today. There was Dumso in Kumasi at the time when the relocated Ameri plant is supposed to solve a major problem they are facing. Now, on the face of some of these controversies that will be unfolding and so on and so forth, what do you see as the biggest challenge for those in opposition and those in government as far as convincing the average voter is concerned?
I think that fundamentally what speaks to people's livelihood will be key. All right. And then who they would trust or they would believe that indeed would be able to, solve those problems, actually key to people's decisions. And it is not about you saying it that I would do it, because we have had that conversation several times, in this country. It's about people looking at your track record and thinking, indeed, whenever you say you will do this, you did it. All right. So majority of people would actually look at their own circumstances. Have they had a job over the period? When they lost their job, have they been able to find another? Are their kids well taken care of in terms of education, in terms of health? Do they have a decent, life, going forward? So I think that it would be so many things.
You can turn a little and face the camera as you speak, right?
Sorry. I think that it will be so many things. But the most important is that their livelihood, all right, and the candidate's trustworthiness to fulfill, what they say that they would do for them, I think will be key.
Well, my guest has been Professor Kobe Mensah. We've been discussing the performance tracker. And of course, we've also tried to find out if indeed there's more to be done. For him, it looks like a good idea. It may have been rushed, but there is still more room for improvement. I don't know what your own perceptions are and what you think should be the standard we should adopt as a country. Because in most cases, many of us cry over how much money has come into the kitty, what has informed the distribution of those resources, and whether those resources are being applied the way you and I want for the benefit of all. But if you had opportunity to advise, what would you tell Ghanaians, government, anybody?
I think that we should be tired of the promises that politicians give us. We should be a lot more scrutinizing. We had been begging politicians for so many years. And I don't know why we should be doing that. Now, I keep asking my colleagues, we have groups of professional groups. We have the health workers, doctors, nurses, so forth.
Medical association or the nurses and registered
we have
midwives,
academics, we have security agencies, we have farmers, we have engineers. We have so many professional groups in this country.
Organized labor.
Organized labor.
Bringing all of them under one bracket.
Yet, only one group, politicians, are constantly determining our life. And they constantly making it porous. So I don't see why we should keep quiet. None of these groups is talking. None of these groups. I haven't heard in this country engineers showing concern, writing to government about their worries. I haven't heard medical or health professionals writing to government about what they worry about.
Issues.
Yes, I don't hear them. Now, in England, when we were going into the Brexit, You can check. All the professional groups wrote to government and said this is a bad idea. The directors council, there's a council for directors, the researchers, all right, the NHS doctors, varied groups wrote to government and said this is a bad idea, because they know that, or if you take researchers, they know the number of percentage of researchers that come from Europe. And so when you go out of Europe, how it's going to impact them. All right. The business owners, they know the number of people that they get from the expertise that they get from Europe to help them. They know. So they could write to government and complain. I've never heard in this country that there is certain, apart from trade union, picketing or doing, I've never heard individual groups bringing pressure on government to say that you are spoiling our education system. You are actually deteriorating our health system. You are actually making our welfare worse. I've never heard it. When you have the conversation, people tell you, I'm a banker. If I go and speak my business, I'm a businessman, I'm an entrepreneur. If I go and speak, even including academics who are supposed to have what we call academic freedom, are afraid to speak. For what?
But you are not afraid.
No, of course not. I'm never afraid.
But of course, many will conclude that is why we are where we are. Because we have created our own problems.
Farmers are not speaking. Market women are not speaking. Market men and women. You have engineers.
Is it a psychological problem?
We have made to believe that the psyche of the colonizer is still existing. Because the colonizer, what did they do? They shut us up, had a few of us to benefit, to enjoy with them, and then everybody else was watching them.
You think we can cross this bridge one day?
Well, I'm very skeptical. Those days I used to believe, but especially in my early years when I came to Ghana.
So, Prof, I'm so grateful for the time. Unfortunately, our time is up. Next week, we'll be having another conversation. Tomorrow, between 1 and 2 o'clock, you can also find a playback of this conversation. It's also live all the time. I'll call it live all the time because it will never go on our social media handles. My name is Ahianyo. Good night.